Rice. For decades, it has been the number one food that doctors tell diabetics to avoid. Cut the rice, they say. Your blood sugar is too high. And so, millions of people, many of them seniors who have eaten rice their entire lives, for whom rice is culture, comfort, and daily tradition, reluctantly push it off the plate. They try to substitute cauliflower rice or quinoa or something that doesn't taste right and doesn't feel like home. And here's the frustrating part. Their blood sugar often stays stubborn anyway because they've eliminated the joy from eating without fully solving the problem. What if avoiding rice entirely was never the answer? What if 5 simple preparation techniques, things you can start doing tonight with ingredients already in your kitchen, could reduce the blood sugar spike from rice by 30 to almost 40%? Recent peer-reviewed research published in respected medical and nutrition journals says that's exactly possible. And in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to walk you through every single one of them. I'm Dr. James, and this channel exists for one purpose: to take the most current, evidence-based medical research available and translate it into practical guidance that adults over 60 can actually use. No jargon, no runaround, no wasted time. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so now. We release new research-backed content every week that your primary care doctor may not have time to tell you about. Now let's talk about the 5 rice hacks that science says actually work. To understand why these hacks work, you first need a quick foundation. When you eat rice, especially standard white rice, your digestive system converts it into glucose extraordinarily fast. We measure this speed using something called the glycemic index, or GI for short. The higher the number, the faster blood sugar rises after eating that food. Standard boiled white rice lands between 72 and 83 on the glycemic index scale, depending on the variety. That's classified as high. Jasmine rice can push even past 85. For comparison, pure table sugar sits at 65. This is why a bowl of white rice can spike your blood sugar faster than a spoonful of sugar. The starch breaks down so rapidly that glucose floods the bloodstream before insulin can respond properly. But here's what the research now clearly shows. That number is not fixed. The glycemic impact of rice is actually quite flexible depending on how it's cooked, what it's cooked with, what you eat alongside it, and in what order you eat the components of your meal. That flexibility is exactly where these 5 hacks live. Hack number 1 is what I call the cool and reheat method, and the science behind it is genuinely striking. A study published in the Asia-Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition by researcher Sudhir James and colleagues investigated what happens structurally to rice starch when cooked. Rice is cooled in a refrigerator before being reheated and eaten. The findings changed how nutrition scientists think about rice preparation. Here's what happens at the molecular level. Freshly cooked rice contains what's called gelatinized starch, a form your digestive enzymes break down extremely quickly, releasing glucose all at once. When that same rice is refrigerated for at least 12 hours, a portion of the starch undergoes a process called retrogradation, converting into resistant starch. Resistant starch is fundamentally different from regular starch. It behaves more like dietary fiber inside your digestive tract. Your small intestine cannot fully absorb it, which means significantly less of it gets converted to blood sugar. The resistant starch instead travels to your large intestine, where it feeds beneficial gut bacteria, an added bonus for digestion and overall metabolic health. The study found that cooling and reheating rice reduced its glycemic impact by 10 to 15% compared to eating it freshly cooked. Across every rice meal you eat throughout a week, month, and year, that consistent reduction adds up to a meaningful difference in your average blood sugar control. Here's the practical application. Cook a batch of rice the evening before you plan to eat it. Let it rest on the counter for 30 minutes to come down to room temperature, then seal it in a container and refrigerate it overnight. When you're ready to eat, reheat it thoroughly. A splash of water in the microwave works perfectly, or a covered pan on the stove with low heat. Here's the detail that surprised researchers and will probably surprise you too. The resistant starch formed during refrigeration survives reheating. It does not reverse. The structural change is permanent, which means you get the full benefit even after warming the rice back up to eating temperature. I want to pause and ask you something, and I genuinely mean this as a community question. Comment below and tell me what type of rice is most common in your household. White, brown, jasmine, basmati, or something else entirely. Knowing what's actually on your dinner tables helps me create content that addresses your real situation, not just textbook scenarios. Hack number 2 involves something sitting in nearly every kitchen already: vinegar, specifically the acetic acid that makes vinegar sour. A 2020 meta-analysis published in the Journal of Functional Foods compiled findings from 12 separate clinical trials examining the effect of dietary acetic acid on post-meal blood sugar levels. Across those 12 studies, one finding was remarkably consistent. Consuming vinegar with or shortly before a carbohydrate-rich meal reduced the post-meal blood sugar spike by an average of 20%. The mechanism works on a specific enzyme called alpha amylase. This is the enzyme your body uses to break starch down into simple sugars. Acetic acid inhibits alpha amylase activity. When the enzyme is working at reduced capacity, the digestion of rice starch slows down considerably. Instead of glucose flooding your bloodstream in one sharp wave, it enters gradually over a longer period. Your pancreas has time to release insulin in a measured, appropriate response, rather than scrambling to keep up with a sudden surge. That difference, the wave versus the gradual curve, is what separates a dangerous spike from a manageable rise. You have 3 practical options for getting this benefit. First, add 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar or white wine vinegar directly to the water when cooking your rice. The flavor impact is minimal. Most people do not notice it. Second, make a simple condiment: 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar mixed with a small amount of olive oil, a pinch of salt, and minced garlic. Use it as a dressing or dipping sauce alongside your meal. Third, dilute 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in a full glass of water and drink it 15 minutes before you sit down to eat. All 3 approaches deliver the acetic acid your body needs. What matters most is consistency, making this a daily habit rather than an occasional experiment. One important caution here: if you have been diagnosed with diabetic gastroparesis, a condition affecting stomach emptying speed that impacts some long-term diabetics, please speak with your doctor before increasing vinegar consumption, because further slowing digestion in that context can cause complications. For everyone else, this is a safe and well-studied strategy. Now, hack number 3 is the one that most people are the most skeptical about when they first hear it. Not because it's complicated, because it seems almost too simple. The third hack is food sequencing. Not what you eat, not how much you eat, but the order in which you eat the different parts of your meal. Research from Weill Cornell Medical College, published in the journal Diabetes Care by Dr. Louis Aron's team, had participants with type 2 diabetes eat the exact same meal, vegetables, protein, and carbohydrates, in different sequences on different occasions. When the participants ate their vegetables and protein first and reserved the carbohydrates for the end of the meal, their post-meal blood sugar spike was 28 to 37% lower compared to eating everything in the traditional mixed fashion or eating carbohydrates first. Think about that. The same food, the same quantities, eaten at the same table, but 37% less blood sugar impact based purely on order. Here's why the biology works. When you eat non-starchy vegetables first, their fiber physically coats the lining of your digestive tract and creates a kind of physical barrier that slows the absorption of whatever comes after. When protein and fat arrive next, they trigger the release of hormones, particularly GLP-1 and GIP, that slow gastric emptying and prime the insulin response. By the time the rice finally reaches your digestive system, your body is in a completely different metabolic state, one that processes the starch far more gradually and efficiently. The practical rule is simple but non-negotiable: greens first, protein second, rice last, at every meal. Not mostly, every meal. If you're eating chicken, green beans, and rice, start with the green beans, eat the chicken next, and finish with the rice. Let me tell you about a patient named Margaret. 71 years old, a retired school librarian from Central Florida, managing type 2 diabetes for 9 years. Her post-meal blood sugar after dinner was regularly reaching 240 or 250, and her endocrinologist was pushing to escalate her medication. Margaret was determined to try lifestyle interventions first. She implemented hack number 2, the daily vinegar habit, and hack number 3, food sequencing, simultaneously for 90 days. She made no other significant changes. At her next A1C measurement 3 months later, her number had dropped from 7.8 to 7.1. Her post-dinner spikes rarely exceeded 180. Same rice, same portion, same kitchen, different preparation habits. Hack number 4 is about choosing the right variety of rice, and the differences between varieties are larger than most people understand. Standard long-grain white rice and jasmine rice carry glycemic indices in the mid to upper 70s and above, but basmati rice, particularly aged white basmati, consistently measures between 58 and 63 on the glycemic index scale. That's a meaningful difference. We're talking about an entirely different category of blood sugar impact. The reason is structural. Basmati rice contains a higher proportion of a starch molecule called amylose, compared to the other primary starch molecule, amylopectin, which dominates in most white rice varieties. Amylose is digested significantly more slowly than amylopectin. It's more compact and crystalline at the molecular level, and digestive enzymes have a harder time breaking it apart quickly. A 2019 study published in the journal Nutrients tested glycemic responses in type 2 diabetic patients given identical portions of basmati, jasmine, and standard white rice on separate occasions. Basmati produced substantially lower post-meal blood glucose elevations in every participant tested. Brown rice performs similarly well, with a glycemic index of around 50 to 55, and has the added benefit of higher fiber content from the intact bran layer. I know from the comments on this channel that many of you find brown rice harder to digest, or simply don't enjoy the texture. If that's you, I want to be clear. Switching to white basmati is a genuinely significant upgrade from regular white rice, and a change you will actually maintain. The best dietary modification is always the one that's sustainable, not the one that's theoretically optimal, but abandoned after 2 weeks. Speaking of choices, have you ever eaten basmati rice specifically? Comment yes or no below. And if you've made the switch from regular white rice to basmati, I'd love to know whether you noticed any difference in how you felt after meals. Your experiences inform other people in this community who are weighing the same decision. Hack number 5 is the most powerful of everything we've discussed today, and the research behind it attracted global attention when it was first presented. It involves adding a specific fat to your rice during cooking. The research came from the Sri Lanka Institute of Chemistry, and it was presented at the National Meeting of the American Chemical Society, one of the largest scientific gatherings in the world. The lead researcher, Dr. Pushparaja Thavaraja, discovered that adding 1 teaspoon of virgin coconut oil to the boiling water before adding rice, then refrigerating the cooked rice overnight, increased the resistant starch content of the rice dramatically, by some measures, up to 15 times compared to plain rice cooked and eaten fresh. The fat molecules from the coconut oil interact with the starch granules during the cooking process, forming molecular complexes that are extremely resistant to digestive enzymes. The result is that a much larger portion of the rice starch bypasses normal glucose-producing digestion entirely. When you combine this technique with the refrigeration method from hack number 1, you're stacking 2 resistant starch mechanisms simultaneously, and the combined effect on post-meal blood sugar is substantial. The study's more conservative estimates still showed a 15 to 25% reduction in glycemic impact beyond what refrigeration alone achieves. That is clinically meaningful for anyone working to control blood sugar without eliminating rice from their diet. The protocol is simple. Bring your water to a full boil. Add exactly 1 teaspoon of unrefined virgin coconut oil. Stir briefly, then add your rice and cook as normal. Let it cool, refrigerate overnight, and reheat before eating. 1 teaspoon per serving. I want to be transparent with you. If your cardiologist has specifically advised you to restrict saturated fat due to cardiovascular disease or high LDL cholesterol, discuss adding coconut oil with them first. 1 teaspoon per serving is a modest amount, but your individual health picture matters, and this conversation is worth having with your healthcare team. Now let me tell you about Harold. He was 67 years old when his blood work first showed an A1C of 9.2, well into the clinical diabetic range. Harold had eaten rice at nearly every meal his entire adult life. His family was Filipino and rice was not optional. His doctor wanted to start insulin immediately. Harold requested 90 days to pursue aggressive lifestyle changes first. He implemented all 5 hacks simultaneously. He switched his household entirely to aged basmati rice. He started the coconut oil and overnight refrigeration method for every batch. He added apple cider vinegar to water before every rice meal. He committed to strict food sequencing, and he added a 30-minute walk after dinner each evening. At his 90-day follow-up, his A1C had dropped from 9.2 to 7.1. He avoided insulin. His doctor called it one of the most dramatic dietary intervention results he had seen in 20 years of practice. Here is your complete action plan. Exactly what to do starting tonight. Step 1. Purchase aged white basmati rice if you don't already use it. It's available at most grocery chains, Indian and South Asian markets, and online retailers. The word aged on the label indicates better starch quality. This is your everyday rice going forward. Step 2. Every time you cook rice, add exactly 1 teaspoon of unrefined virgin coconut oil to the boiling water before the rice goes in. This step takes 3 seconds and requires no other change to your cooking process. Step 3. Never eat rice the same day you cook it unless absolutely necessary. Cook your rice the night before. Let it cool on the counter for 30 minutes, then cover and refrigerate it for a minimum of 12 hours. Reheat with a splash of water until steaming throughout. This one change alone begins lowering glycemic impact immediately. Step 4. At every meal that includes rice, drink 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar diluted in a large glass of water approximately 15 minutes before sitting down to eat. If the taste is difficult, start with 1 teaspoon and build up gradually. Alternatively, add rice vinegar directly to the cooking water or use a vinegar-based sauce as a condiment. Step 5. Restructure your eating order permanently. Vegetables first, always. Protein second, rice last. Post this on your refrigerator if it helps you remember. This habit alone has been shown in controlled clinical research to cut post-meal blood sugar spikes by nearly 40%. Before I close, a critical note on safety. If you are currently on insulin, sulfonylureas, or any blood sugar medication that can cause hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, implementing all 5 of these strategies together may lower your numbers more than expected. That sounds like a good thing, but low blood sugar is dangerous in its own right. Please tell your doctor or endocrinologist that you are making these dietary changes so they can monitor your numbers and adjust medication if necessary. Work with your medical team, not around them. The timeline for results. Most people who implement these 5 hacks consistently report noticeably improved post-meal blood sugar readings within 2 to 3 weeks. A measurable improvement in A1C, your 3-month blood sugar average, typically appears at the 3-month mark for most people who stay consistent. Here is the core message from everything we covered today. You do not have to choose between rice and your blood sugar health. The cooling method with coconut oil, the daily vinegar habit, the food sequencing practice, and the switch to basmati rice each independently reduce the glycemic impact of rice. Together, they create a compounded effect that can transform your post-meal numbers without deprivation, without expensive supplements, and without giving up food that matters to you and your family. If you're going to try at least one of these hacks starting today, type the word "starting" in the comments right now. If you've already been doing one of these things instinctively, maybe your grandmother always made rice the day before, comment and tell us which hack. And if someone in your life has been struggling with blood sugar and reluctantly avoiding rice they love, please share this video with them today. What they learn here could genuinely change their numbers. If this kind of practical, evidence-based guidance is what you've been looking for, subscribe to this channel. We do this every single week. Coming up next, we are covering the 5 most commonly prescribed medications that are quietly depleting critical nutrients your heart, brain, and muscles depend on. And most doctors never mention this. If you take any prescription drugs regularly, you will not want to miss that one. I'm Dr. James. Take good care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.